To catch you up, Chris and I bought a lake house that needed a lot of work. Our plan is to DIY it one room at a time while staying within a tight budget. And of course, we plan to take you along every step of the way, sharing our best tips for DIYing on a budget. Do you want to replace your countertops, but you don't want to spend the money to get brand new ones? Well, I have an option where you can update your countertops and it's going to cost under $200. I'm renovating my kitchen and I have these brown Formica countertops that I'm not a fan of. I wanted them to have a marble appearance. I found a kit that's under $200 that comes with all of the paint, epoxy, rollers, and brushes that you will need to update your countertops. So your first step is to prep your countertop. You're going to remove any silicone caulking. You're also going to score your countertops with a Brillo pad or scratch pad just to kind of rough them up. If you don't have one of those, you could also use a light sander. Next, you want to clean your countertops with just water and a microfiber cloth. I did this twice to remove anything that was on my counters. Let that dry completely. To protect your cabinetry, you're going to put drop cloths around the front of your cabinets. And then you also want to add some painter's tape to the top of your backsplash. Now that you've done all the prep work, it's time to paint. So you're going to be using a foam roller, a 2-inch brush, as well as a fabric roller. Now with your backsplash, that's where you're going to use that foam roller on the top, as well as that crease area. It's just easier to get the paint in those sections. And then for the flat surfaces, you can use your fabric roller to roll on your white primer paint. If you have darker cabinetry like I did, you're probably gonna have to do multiple coats. I ended up doing 4 coats of this white primer, so it took me quite a while to get this done. In between each of your coats, you want to allow at least an hour dry time. While you're waiting for your primer to dry, this is a great time to research different marble pictures on your phone to figure out exactly the type of marble that you like. And I actually drew out how I wanted the veins to look on my countertop. This was a really important step because it kind of gave me a guide whenever I started actually putting the veins on my countertop. You definitely want to practice putting the gray veins on ahead of time, so I suggest doing that on a scrap board just to kind of get the technique down. So let me show you the technique that I use to put my veins on. So the kit comes with some gray paint. So you're gonna use a small brush and you're going to just lightly drag the brush onto your countertops. As you're dragging the brush, you wanna twist the brush. This is gonna break up your paint a little bit. Then you're gonna come in with a water squirt bottle and you're going to spray it on your veins. Next, you're gonna take a 2-inch brush and dab your paint. Now this is where your veins kind of take shape. So if you want them to be a little bit softer, you're gonna dab them more. If you want them to have a more distinct line, just dab a little bit. So I suggest when you're starting your veins, you just wanna do the main ones on your countertop. Work in small sections too, because you don't want that gray paint to dry before you're able to get to it. Once you have your main vein on, then you can extend them on the front of your countertops as well as the backsplash. Now make sure you're referencing that map that you created at the beginning, and you wanna make sure you put all of your major veins on your countertops. Now as I was doing this, I felt like some of my veins were a little too dark. So some of the techniques I used to kind of mute them down a little bit was I added additional water and just dabbed them a little bit more with my brush. A good time to step back, and this is where you can put in accent veins. Where do you feel like it's a little bare? Where do you need to add in some more veins? You can go back in and do that at this point. To make your veins look as realistic as possible, it's important to understand the 4 major veins that you can use. One is an extended vein, which is simply a line that's going to extend across your entire countertop. The other vein style is a crescent vein. So you're going to have an extended vein and you're going to have kind of almost like a half moon shape on your vein. There's also a Y vein, which can look really natural on your countertop. The other vein option is a ripple vein, which is basically where you just have 2 veins next to each other parallel. Another technique you can do is you can actually use some white paint. So in this kit I had, it came with white highlighter paint and a sponge. I simply just dabbed some of the white highlighter paint onto a plate and I was able to put it on my veins. It really broke them up and made them look so much more natural. After this step, you wanna let it sit for at least 4 hours before you move on to the epoxy. So I did this, let it sit overnight, and went to the next step. With the epoxy, you're actually going to work in small sections. I usually worked in about a 3-foot section of my countertops. So you're going to mix the resin with the activator, and then you're going to mix that together for at least 3.5 minutes. Once you've activated your resin, you're going to put it onto your countertop. So I kind of put it back and forth so it covered the entire countertop. Now you don't want this overflowing. Don't get crazy with it or anything. Now to cover your entire countertops, you're going to use a 2-inch brush to pull it up on the top of your backsplash. You want to use your foam roller to lightly move it on your countertops. With the front section, you're going to use your foam roller to roll it on the front. You're going to keep working in small 3-foot sections, making sure to go back over the ones you've already done to make sure it all is smooth. Now this epoxy is self-leveling, which is great, so you don't have to overwork it at all. Now, another thing that I did several times throughout the day after I put the resin on is I came in with just like a wood paint stir and I went around the bottom edge of my countertops to make sure I didn't have any drips that were falling down. It just kind of made sure it was nice and smooth on the bottom. After your resin is completely on, you want to make sure that between 1 to 2 hours, you remove the tape that's on the top of your backsplash. Then about 2.5 hours, you want to remove the tape that's on your cabinetry because by then your resin's set up enough. After 48 hours, you're going to be able to put light items on your countertops, but it's going to take a good 7 days for your countertops to be completely cured. So you want to avoid using them as much as possible in that first week. And here's how my countertops turned out. It's been a few months since I did the marble technique on the countertop and a lot has changed in the kitchen. I wanted to kind of give you guys an update and let you know these are holding up so well. I'm so glad that I did this. Everybody who comes in my kitchen is just super impressed. They can't believe that I painted these countertops. But I also wanted to show you guys the color that I did on the cabinetry. So this color is by Sherwin-Williams. It's called Stardew, and I just think it brightens up the kitchen so much. I also put on some new hardware that I think is just super pretty. The hardware is unlacquered, so it's going to patina over time. Now with the hinges, what I did to update those was I actually used Rub and Buff, and I think they turned out really well. In my kitchen, there was this really flat wall and I really thought it'd be pretty to have some open shelving on there. So I wanted to do it myself to make it super affordable. So I went to Home Depot and I bought boards that were 1 by 8 by 6 feet long. I purchased my shelf brackets off of Amazon that fit the boards perfectly. And of course, I'll link those down in the description box for you. I marked on the walls with painter's tape exactly where my studs were because this was going to tell me exactly where I could put the brackets on the wall because you really want to make sure that you have them screwed into a stud so it holds really well on your wall. I put together my basket sconces. These are going to go at the top of my shelves. Next, I marked off with painter's tape where I was going to hang my basket sconces as well as my shelves. For my basket sconces, you can see that there's no wires in my wall, so I didn't want to hardwire them in. So I'm going to be doing the next best thing, which is putting in puck lights. These are some of my favorite puck lights. I'll link them for you down in the description box. So I started by adding batteries into my puck lights. Once I had the batteries in there, I'm gonna use some construction adhesive to glue the basket portion to the light. I'm gonna use the same construction adhesive to glue the puck light to my sconce. And I'll let it set overnight to dry. So I really was double and triple checking my measurements. I measured exactly where I wanted my brackets to hang and then I screwed them into the wall. Make sure that when you're putting your brackets in so that your shelf is nice and level, you want to use a large level to make sure both of your brackets are at the same height. So I got all the brackets in place. I got the bottom ones as well as the top. Now to put the sconce on the walls, I just screwed in the back plates onto my wall and then I screwed in the wall sconces. I sanded and stained the boards and added those into my brackets. I added in some additional screws on the underside of my brackets just to hold it in place really well. Now my favorite part of this project was thrifting all the items that I was going to add to the shelves. Now I was going to add on some practical items, like I wanted to add mugs for our coffee bar, but I also wanted some decorative items. So I thrifted a lot of those items. I spray painted some of those because I really wanted more of a neutral finish on my shelf. So let's get started on my lower deck. One thing I really wanted to do on this lower level was string some cafe lights across the entire patio. So in order to do that, I needed something to attach them to on the other side. Well, there's really nothing there except for the lake. I wanted to create some planters with a tall board that I could hook the cafe lights in. I picked up 2 wooden planters from Lowe's. I also grabbed some pressure treated boards. These were 4x4 boards. Now with the long boards, I'm going to stain them. I'm also going to add some hooks to the top. This is important to do before you attach your boards just because it's gonna be high up. The next step was to add my boards to the middle of my planters. These boards were pretty heavy and I want them to be super stable, so I had to make sure that they were sturdy and in place. So I bought some L brackets and I screwed L brackets into the bottom of the boards. And then I put the board into the middle of my planter and screwed them into the planters. So I had to get some weight to the bottom of my planter to offset the heaviness of the board. So I mixed up some concrete with water. With my concrete, I like it to be a little bit thicker than a pudding consistency. And I'm going to mix the concrete with water and then I'll add it to my planters. Now at the bottom of my planters, I wanted maybe, I would say 3 or 4 inches at the bottom of them. So I put the concrete in place and I let that set for 24 hours before I did anything additional. After your concrete set up, you want to go and put your planters in place where they're going to be. So I put 2 of them where I knew I wanted them on the patio. Next, I grabbed a bag of gravel from Walmart. I found that the rocks that I picked up at Walmart were some of the best deals compared to other places that I priced them out at. So I'm gonna put a bag of gravel at the bottom. This is gonna help with drainage and it's going to give me more weight, which is going to keep these planters in place. Next, I added in a bag of soil. Now for my plants, I went to Walmart. I find that Walmart has some of the best prices for plants each year. And to save a little bit of money, one of my tricks that I like to do to get more plant for my money is to buy hanging planters. These are usually around $10 and you get quite a bit of plants versus buying the individual plants. So that's one of my tips that I like to do. So I bought 2 purple hanging plants. I also had another purple plant and some vine plants, and I just added those into my planter box. So I will be able to change out these plants seasonally depending on, what plants I want for the year. So one of the things that I really went back and forth with was how many real plants should I have versus having fake plants. And I thought, with the inexpensive plants, I would go ahead and try to have real plants, real flowers. But the ones that were going to be a little bit pricier, I was going to buy fake because I'm worried about how often we're gonna be able to be down here to water. I just didn't want to spend a lot of money on real plants and them die because we're not here. So I wanted some big topiary topiaries to go in some planters that I had found. And so I decided to purchase those off of Amazon. I'll link to them down in the description box for you. For these large topiaries, I needed some planters, and one of my favorite places to get planters is Big Lots. I headed to Big Lots. I actually found two planters that I liked. I found this geometric one and this one with like wavy lines. You guys are gonna have to let me know down in the comments which one you liked better. Just type the comment geometric or wavy. I will say I ended up picking the wavy ones, but I don't know, it was a hard call on that. Now again, with these planters, I needed to weight them down because I don't want them to blow over. There's a lot of wind where we're at, so I need to make them heavy and stable. So I started by putting a Dollar Tree basket at the bottom. This just provided a little bit of filler, so I didn't have to fill the entire thing with rocks. I came in with some inexpensive gravel from Walmart that I had picked up. Then I added in some soil. From there, I put the topiary into the soil. Next, I put a little bit more soil on top of the topiary. Then I wanted to use some decorative rocks to finish this off. Now, I will tell you, Walmart was the best price for these rocks. I priced them out and they were almost triple at some of the big box stores. And I wanted like a really pretty white rock for the top. So I added those, concentrating them on the top of my planter because I want to give it as much weight as possible so it's going to stay there and be stable. And I added these planters to the back part of my deck. Now, if you guys like dogs, make sure to give this video a thumbs up. No thumbs down if you like cats though. We actually were lucky enough that the previous owners had put in a fire pit. So I, of course, wanted to put some chairs around this fire pit. I found some great Adirondack chairs that are really great quality, and I bought 6 of them, put those together, and put them around the fire pit. I really want to have some side tables around the fire pit, but I need 6. That's going to be expensive. So I think I found the cheapest option here at Walmart. So let's go in. I'm going to show you what I found. I'm gonna set out the side tables in between each of my Adirondack chairs. So I looked everywhere, Amazon, Walmart, Target for outdoor pillows. The best deal I found was at HomeGoods. I found this one for $16.99. This is a pack of 2 for $20. I'm gonna get 3 of these pillows. I also found this big poof. I believe this is $40. I placed all of the pillows around in the chairs. I also grabbed some black pillows that I had found at Walmart. I also wanted to add in some throw blankets because it gets chilly here at night. So most of the throw blankets I picked up off of Amazon for under $15. We will link to all of them for you down in the description box. So earlier in the week, I kind of went on a hunt for some different planters for the space. I wanted inexpensive ones. I picked up a couple at Big Lots, but I have to say my favorite planters were these ones that I found at Walmart. They were like beigey and white. They looked just like Pottery Barn planters. So they are out right now, so you guys can go grab those. I also picked up my plants from Walmart. So I went ahead and planted all of my flowers. And then I added the plants around the lower deck. Next, I had this idea to make some concrete planters for the patio. So for this DIY, you're going to need 3 juice containers, or however many planters you're gonna make is how many juice containers you need. I also grabbed 3 mason jars. Then I cut off the top portion of the juice containers. Now Now on each of the juice containers, I marked 2 lines. The first line at the bottom was gonna be the line where I was going to add the concrete in. The second line was going to be where I pushed the mason jar down. That was gonna be how high the concrete was going to raise up. So that was kind of my strategy to get them all to be the same height. So I started by mixing my concrete with water. I like my concrete to be at a pudding consistency. I find that it's the most manageable to work with. So I mixed the water and concrete. Next, I added my concrete into my juice container at that bottom line. Then I put the mason jar in and I pushed it down until the concrete came up to that second line. You're gonna repeat this with any other mason jars or concrete planters that you're trying to create. Let this dry at least 24 hours, and then you're going to pull off the cardboard. That's why I like using cardboard, because it's really easy to take off after you're done creating your planter. Now, here's what happened. I created 3 of these and somehow the concrete settled, and so they were really at varying heights, so I didn't like all 3 of them put together. I thought they would work in different areas around my patio. Now to fill these, I grabbed some stems from Walmart that are new and out this spring. They're really pretty, and I'm gonna add those to the mason jars. And here's how it looks styled on my blue outdoor cooler. When we moved in, on each of the pillars outside, there were some oil lamp sconces, but one of them was missing, so I knew I was going to need to replace these. So I found some solar light sconces off of Amazon in a pack of 2, so I decided to put those in place of the sconces that were already there. I drilled holes into the wall and screwed the hangers for the sconces in place, and they hang nicely on there, and they actually provide quite a bit of light at night, so I'm really happy with these. To finish off my lower level, I wanted to add some cafe lights to my planters that I spent all that time creating. So I just started by plugging the planters in at the wall, and then my thought was I could hang them where I put the solar lights. Then I strung them across to the planters and put them on the hooks that were on the top of my planters, and then I strung them back and then back to my other planter. And then I did it one more time back to the post. Now the reason I didn't go over my entire patio was because of the fire pit. I didn't want the lights to be above the fire pit, but I was so excited to turn them on at night. They look so pretty and they add just a great element to the patio. If you guys love seeing Moose at DIYs, make sure you're subscribed to our channel. You know, it really helps his self-esteem. Now, one level up from this lower level is a deck area, and it's a covered deck, which is nice. So I actually grabbed the patio furniture from my house to take down there because I felt like it fit in really well with like the color scheme I was going for here. So I added the rug. I also added in my couch and my side tables and the coffee table. Now I was super excited to find this blue and white ottoman at HomeGoods. I added that in as well. In the corner, I wanted to add a little bit of color, so I grabbed some plant stands from Big Lots, so I added those, and I'm also gonna add in some plants that I grabbed from Walmart. Now, if you take a step back from the seating area, there's actually a really cool bar that they put in with some decking. The previous owners did, and I wanted to add some inexpensive bar stools. I found this set off of Amazon. It was a set of 4. Of course, I'll link it for you. So I'm gonna put those underneath. I also added in some more plants as well. Now, I have to say, you guys, this was a lot of work doing this outdoor patio. This was a big project for me, and I feel like I have a good start. You'll have to let me know what you think of it in the comments below. Now, today's room that we're working on is so awkward. It's the weirdest shaped room. It has no closets, no storage, but I wanted to make it beautiful as well as functional. This room was pretty much a blank canvas, so the first thing we did was remove all of the carpets and the baseboards. We painted the entire room with the color Swiss Coffee. This is a Benjamin Moore color, and I always get it at 70%, so it's not its full strength. And I sprayed the entire room with my paint sprayer. If you're gonna be doing a big job, a paint sprayer just makes it so much easier. Next, we added in luxury vinyl plank floors that we got from Home Depot. I'll link them down in the description box, and all the products that I'm showing you guys in today's video, they'll be down there as well. Throughout the lake house, I'm painting all the baseboards in the color Accessible Beige, so I did that with this room as well. So I like to paint my baseboards before I install them, so I just use a roller and I painted 2 coats of Accessible Beige before I installed. The previous owners had left a dresser that fit pretty well in the space, so I figured I would try to repurpose it because it was free. I wanted to remove the curvy pieces at the bottom of the dresser just to make it look a little bit more modern, so I unscrewed those pieces. I also had to come in with my pry bar to kind of pull them off. I was lucky that once I took the pieces off, I was just left with 2 legs. I just sanded down the legs. I did have some holes that I went in and I just added in some wood filler to fill those up. I removed the old hardware for the dresser to get ready to paint. I did a light sand on the entire piece just to kind of scuff it up so it would take the paint a lot better. Next, I'm going to add in the primer. I like to do this with a 4 or 6 inch foam roller. The one I'm using is 6 inch. You could also use a brush around the edges if you need to. gonna let the primer completely dry. Then I'm gonna come back in with 2 coats of the color Accessible Beige. Remember, this was the color that I used on the baseboards, but I continued it onto the dresser. With this piece of furniture, I really wanted to give it kind of like a worn, almost Pottery Barn look. So I found this water-based glaze off of Amazon, and it's in a dark brown finish. Now, when you add a glaze to a piece, it's really personal preference. You can add as little or as much as you like. So I didn't really want to add too much. I just wanted to give it kind of a worn finish. So I mixed some of the glaze with water on a plate. I used a foam brush and I wiped it onto the dresser. Then I immediately came back in with a paper towel and wiped off any excess. When you're adding a glaze, you really want to take a step back, look at it, and make sure you're happy with it. If you want to add more, you can do that as well. After everything had a chance to dry, I added in some knobs that I picked up off of Amazon. So because this space was so awkward, I felt like I needed a wow statement, so I decided to add a board and batten accent wall. I'm gonna be putting this on the wall behind where my bed is going to set. I'm gonna be using baseboard along the bottom edge, and then the board and batten is going to be what I typically use for my door casing. So I went ahead and put in my door casing around my door. Next, I have to figure out the spacing for the boards. Now, this was probably the most tricky part because I didn't know exactly how many boards I wanted to use, and I also wanted to make sure that I didn't run into any outlets. I had a couple of those. So once I figured out how far I wanted them to be apart, I measured up how high I wanted them, and I wanted them to be probably about 4 inches higher than my bed. Then I just cut the boards down with my miter saw. One of the crucial parts when you're cutting the boards is just making sure they're the same size. That way the board that's on top will sit on there nicely. Once I had all the boards cut, I added them to the wall with my Roby nailer. I love this nailer, you guys. It works so well. I'll link it for you down below. And I'm just gonna nail the boards into the wall. Once I've added all of my vertical boards, I'm going to add 1 horizontal board to the top. This is the same style of board, and I'll just nail those in. Now, if you guys are interested in the door casing or baseboards that I use, I pick these up at Home Depot. Now I'm going to fill all the holes. And then I'll add in caulking along the edges. This is such an important step because once you start painting, you don't want to have any seams. I'm gonna be using the color Evening Dove to paint my board and batten. I wanted something that was bold, that was really gonna stand out in this room. So I used a roller and a brush to paint it. I also painted the door casing as well. One of the things I was really concerned about when we first bought this property were the textured walls, because the whole entire place has knockdown on the ceilings and the walls, and I didn't know how that was gonna affect me creating accent walls. And I have to tell you, in this room, I was pleasantly surprised. I was still able to do the board and batten. The only thing that I probably wouldn't attempt is wallpaper, because I don't think that would look very well. I want you to know, if you guys do have textured walls, I feel like you can add in like a board and batten or different accent walls. I wanted to add some inexpensive frames to my wall, and I love the 11 by 14 frames from Dollar Tree. They're super affordable, so I picked up 5 of these frames. Now lately I've been loving purchasing downloadable prints off of Etsy. There's some really great and fun prints to choose from, so I'll link to the one that I picked up below. You guys are gonna have to let me know if you've ever ordered prints off of Amazon. I never knew about this. I kind of was like searching around for an affordable print and stumbled on it, but for larger prints like 11 and 14 and larger, I feel like they're awesome quality. So let me know if you guys have been ordering your prints off of Amazon, or if this is something new that you've just learned. I also bought prints for another room, like I've done a 16 by 20, and it looked awesome as well. I disassembled my frames, and I'm gonna be spray painting all 5 of the frames. I'm gonna start off with a cream color. I'm gonna do both sides with 2 coats. Next, I'm gonna be using this stone textured spray paint. This is so fun. A little goes a long way, but it adds just a little bit of texture to your piece. I'm gonna add the prints into the frame. Now I'm gonna leave out the glass because I don't want the glare from the lights. Now, sometimes it can be a little bit intimidating putting frames on the wall because you want to make sure that they're all at the same line. So my suggestion is start from a base point. So I'm going to start at the bottom of my board and batten, and I'm going to measure up how high I want them to go. I'm going to nail the first nail into the center, and to figure out that point, I'll just measure my wall to get my center point, and I'll nail that into the wall. And I'll continue down adding in my nails. I'm going to measure from my same point to make them all at the same height. You could also use a level to make sure that they're level on your wall. And then I'll just put my frames onto the nails. With these 5 frames, I spaced them about 2 inches apart. I tried to get the largest bed possible for my space, so I found this king bed in this really pretty cream color off of Amazon, so I installed the bed next. Somehow I'll give you my attention. You've got to know that I ain't a person who understands all the clockwork of our romance. You make me feel so alive. I'm gonna link to the mattress that I added below, but I have to tell you, it's really comfortable and was super affordable. I just don't know if I'll dance with the lights on, if you're gonna be moving. At the lake house, I wanted the sheets to be really distinctive, so I found these cool plaid sheets. I love the way they look. They were really affordable, so I picked them up in the king size. Since we're gonna be staying here primarily in the summer, I wanted a lightweight quilt for the space. I found this one that after I washed it, it didn't wrinkle up at all, so I'm excited to use it. I think it looks great on the bed. Now, to finish off the bed with the pillows, I put 3 Euro shams on the back. These were from Target. Then I added in those plaid pillows from the sheet set. And then I thought it would be kind of different to put a long beige pillow. This was like a lumbar support pillow that I picked up at Target. I've been having a hard time deciding whether or not I should put a throw at the bottom of the bed. I don't know, I was thinking about maybe adding like a tan or cream throw. Let me know your thoughts. Just leave the comment throw in the comments down below if you think I should add a throw. how amazing is this side table? I just thought it was so unique and different. I bought it at a store in Kansas City called Good Juju, and literally me and my mom searched pretty much the whole day for this side table. I knew it had to be small to fit in this room, but I wanted something wood and unique, and I think this is perfect. All right, so there is not a lot of room on the nightstand, enough for this gold lamp that I picked up. And again, I have to get behind the bed to plug it in. If you like seeing videos like this, make sure to give me a thumbs up. And if you've made it this far in the video, go down in the comments and comment the word navy. I had a really hard time figuring out like a fun wall art piece, and I wanted to add something to add a little bit of interest to that wall when you first walk into the room. I created a wall art piece that I thought would be perfect for this room. Now, to create this wall art piece, I started by cutting a board down into a rainbow shape. I purchased some larger macrame cord off of Amazon. I'm gonna hot glue it around the edge of my rainbow piece. I'm gonna trim the macrame down so that all of the pieces are at an angle. Originally, I added some blue tie-dye to the bottom portion of this macrame, but as I was looking at it for this room, I felt like it needed a little bit more dye to it. So I picked up the color royal blue dye to use for this piece. I also wanted to add in a board to the middle of my piece. This is just a 1x2 board that I picked up at the store. I'm gonna cut that down to size, then I'm gonna paint it white. I hot glued that board to the middle of my macrame. Now, one of the cool things about dye that you buy that's fabric dye is you can actually change the strength of it by adding water. I wanted to make a really dark concentrated look, so I taped off the top portion of my macrame, and I also put some tape underneath the board as well on both sides. Then I went in with a paintbrush. I put a little bit of the dye into a container, and I literally just painted on the macrame with my paintbrush. This was very intense color, very deep blue. Next, I taped off a portion on the bottom. I mixed some of the dye with water, so I was getting a little bit of a brighter blue color. And again, I went in with a brush and just brushed it onto the macrame. I might be dreaming. You're stirring things up. My heart is beating. Oh. I'm gonna remove the tape and let this dry completely overnight. Looking at it the next day, I decided I wanted to add in a little bit more of that full strength blue macrame to the top of my lighter blue color. Once it dried, I was completely happy with it, and I just added it to the room. I wanted to tell you guys too, I also had to buy a mini ceiling fan for this room. We actually created a wood support beam and added in this mini fan. The one that I originally purchased was a full-size one, and it was not going to spin in this room. So I grabbed this one off of Amazon, and it just kind of finishes off the room. So if you have a really tiny room and you can only put a nightstand on one side of your bed, over on this side, I put a little outlet adapter where you can plug in your phone. It has a little ledge as well. So that's gonna work for whoever stays here to charge their phone. I was almost completely done. I finished off the room by adding in a plant stand that I picked up at a vintage market. I also added in an ottoman from Target.
Did you find a blanket? Moose, did you find a blanket? You're so cute. You're so cute.
And here's a look at the finished space. Now, the room I'm going to be sharing with you today was our biggest renovation. So how this renovation started is we wanted to put a bathroom in the primary bedroom. The primary bedroom was actually an addition that somebody had built on at some point, and there was 2 closets in this room. So we kind of considered using one of the closets for the bathroom because there was a really big closet. We also considered taking some space out of the room to put a bathroom in. In the end, we decided let's go with the closet. And that's where this whole process started. We started with a closet and we decided to convert it to a bathroom. So the first thing we did was just demo. We took everything down to the studs. Next, we ran electrical. We needed to make sure we had electrical for 2 outlets up top. And then I also wanted to put some sconces by the vanity mirror, so we added electric there. We also removed the old insulation and put in new. Now, since this was such a tiny room, one of the decisions we made was to put in a pocket door versus a door that swung open into the room. So we built in where the pocket door would be. Next, we had to create framing for where our shower was going to sit. We made sure that our shower base fit. We had all of the plumbing installed for the shower, the toilet, and the sink that's gonna be on the vanity. Next, we built up the shower. We then installed the drywall on the ceiling as well as the walls. Now, one thing that I really didn't want to do was we actually put knockdown texture on the ceiling as well as our walls. All of the walls in this house have this knockdown texture. So I went ahead and put it in this room, although I would have just preferred to put it on the ceiling. Now, the floors were pretty interesting for this room. In the rest of the house, I'm using luxury vinyl plank for the floors, and I found this product at Home Depot that is a luxury vinyl plank in like a marble, almost like tile finish. I thought it was really interesting. It was a great price point, and I thought, let's try that for the bathroom. So you lay it just like you would lay down luxury vinyl plank. We put an underlayment underneath because this is a bathroom, but I really like the way it looks. After we installed our floors, we needed to put in the baseboards, so I started by painting my baseboards with 2 coats of the Evergreen Fog, which is actually Sherwin-Williams color of 2022, but it's a beautiful green color. I also painted the window trim that we're gonna put around the window. We're gonna be using the door that was on the closet originally, and at first I thought I wanted to paint it with accessible beige, so I actually painted the whole thing that color. Then I decided I was going to just keep it white. So I came back in with my wall color, which is Swiss Coffee by Sherwin-Williams. I also had to add some wood filler to the side of my pocket doors. I painted the entire room, ceiling and walls with Swiss Coffee at 70%, which is the color I've been using throughout the entire house. I've been getting a few comments where people are like, Liz, why do you get your paint at 70%? Like, I don't understand that. Well, the reason I do that is because Swiss coffee at 100% is a little yellow. I want it to be more neutral. So I find that at 70%, it makes it more of a neutral color. You can always change the opacity of paints to kind of adjust the color a little bit. I find that I do that more with white colors versus any other like blue or green color. Next, we added in the door casing. Then we added in the baseboards. To attach the baseboards, we're gonna be using my nail gun. I'll link it for you down in the description box. We framed the window with that fluted door casing. I love the way this looked. I actually went back and purchased more so I could put it in my bedroom. Did you know that I have a second channel called Liz Fenwick Daily? On that channel, live streaming weekly, I'm posting daily DIYs, behind the scenes content. If you're not following me on Liz Fenwick Daily, go check it out, subscribe, you're not gonna regret it. I wanted to add some beadboard to this room. I've actually never put up beadboard, so we bought it at Lowe's. It comes in like big 4x8 sheets, and we just cut each of the sheets in half. One of the hardest parts about beadboard is making the measurements for all your openings. So we kind of had to make measurements for outlets, and then we had to account for uneven walls, but it went up really well once we got the measurements figured out, and we just used the nail gun to nail it in. We found the studs on the wall and nailed it in place. One of the tedious tasks that I had to do was fill all the holes, but it's worth it in the end. Whenever you're adding in baseboards or beadboard, you wanna make sure that you caulk all of your seams. I did that on the edge. I also did it where it met the baseboards. This is just going to give you a seamless look once you go into paint. It takes a while, but it's worth it. To finish everything off, I put some door casing on the top of the beadboard. This was just going to give me a finished look. I finished it off by putting in more caulking along the edges and filling the holes. From there, it was a lot of painting. I actually had to use a brush to paint on that beadboard. I found that that actually worked better than using my roller. It took me a while to paint the baseboards, beadboard, and door casing. I also had to clean the window in there. It was pretty dirty, and it originally had like a window unit in there, so it definitely needed to be cleaned. Because this was a small bathroom, I needed to utilize as much storage as possible, so I wanted to add a shelf on one of the edges across from where the shower is. So I grabbed a 1x6x8 board at Lowe's. I cut it down so it would fit perfectly on my shelf. I stained the board and I nailed that in place. I added a little bit of caulking underneath the shelf and did some touch-up paint. Honestly, I spent a lot of time doing touch-up paint in this room because I wanted it to look great, but it was worth it. From there, we added in our lighting. Now, I am obsessed with the lighting. The ceiling lights are so pretty. We added in 2. I also added in 2 sconces that are going to be on either side of the mirror. We installed the vanity as well as the toilet. I bought these very inexpensively at Lowe's. I also picked up a bamboo shade off of Amazon and put that in. I love bamboo shades because they provide enough privacy, but they also have texture to them, which I think looks really nice to kind of just add a little bit of dimension to your room. I spent a little bit more on this mirror because I wanted it to have an archway to it, but it is adorable. I love how it looks above the vanity. I picked out this beautiful gold faucet off of Amazon. You guys, again, I'm gonna link to everything down in the description box, but I was really trying to take an inexpensive vanity and make it look a little bit more high-end. So one of my ideas with the door casing that went around the top edge, I thought I could add in quite a few wall hooks. So I found these inexpensive wood wall hooks off of Amazon, and I'm just going to add those in underneath the shelf. I'm also going to put them on the wall where when you enter in, it's like the doorway wall. That's just going to give us so much more room to hang towels, swimsuits, or anything we need to hang. We connected in all the plumbing for the vanity faucet. I also made the decision to get some new handles at Lowe's because I wanted to change them up to black. And one of the things that's really popular right now in bathroom decors is mixing your metals. So don't be afraid to have black handles with a gold faucet. You don't have to do them all matchy-matchy. You can definitely switch it up. Now we're getting to the fun part, which is a lot of the decor items. I thrifted this vase and I wanted to change up the color, so I spray painted it the color Nutmeg. I grabbed another thrifted vase that I'm gonna spray with a cream color. And I'm gonna add one of my new favorite spray paints, which is the Stone Texture. And then I also picked up these cute flowers off of Amazon. I'm gonna add those into the vase. I thought these looked adorable sitting in my windowsill. On my channel, I post a variety of videos. I do a lot of makeover videos, but I also do Dollar Tree, IKEA, Five Below DIYs. So I would love to know from you guys, do you enjoy seeing the home makeover videos? If you like seeing them, give me a thumbs up. I'll know to do more like it in the future. Next, let's style my shelf. I have been really enjoying picking up prints that you can download off of Etsy, and I've been printing these off of Amazon's print shop. You can actually upload prints to Amazon and print. They'll come in the mail. It's really inexpensive, so I like doing that. But I bought this set of like Etsy prints that had like boats and kind of water related items. So I'm gonna do a 16 by 20 print for this shelf. The frame I grabbed at Target. The vases are from Dollar General, and this basket I picked up at Five Below. Now the basket is going to just give me extra storage in this room. In a previous DIY, I showed you guys how to create this Q-tip vase, and I'm gonna add that in as well. My towel that I'm hanging up is from Amazon. Instead of going out and buying a trash can, I really wanted something wicker and vintage looking, so I found this trash can for a couple of dollars at a thrift store. On the doorway wall, I wanted to add some prints as well above where I put the wall hooks. These are Etsy prints as well. I went with the 11 by 14 size and got the same picture frame from Target. The shower, I put in a gold faucet, and I wanted to have a glass door. I felt like a glass door was going to make the room look a lot bigger than if we used a shower curtain, so it just kind of helps to expand the room a little bit more. put a hand towel over by the vanity, and of course I had to accessorize the vanity a little bit. I found this adorable plant from IKEA and this wicker plant pot. If you're looking for them now, I just bought them, so hopefully they're in stock for you. One of my tricks to make my soap look a little bit more high-end is I like to get these glass bottles from Home Goods. They're usually under $5, and then you can just refill them as you run out of soap. I wanted to put a cutting board underneath the plant and my soap, so I had two options. You guys are gonna have to let me know which one you like better. The first option was one I got in the Target dollar spot for $5. It was more of a cutting board shape. And the other one was a rectangular cutting board that I picked up at a local store. Now let me know in the comments which one you think I should go with, either option A or option B. In the end, I went with the one that's in the rectangular shape, but you never know, I could always change it out. I have to tell you guys, I make over a lot of rooms, and this is honestly my new favorite room. I love how it turned out. So the room we're gonna be making over is a little bit strange and has some weird parts to it. So it was kind of challenging to kind of figure out what to do with this room. But first of all, it has like slanted ceilings because it's up like kind of in an attic style space. It also has no closet. So I needed to add storage to this space, but I also wanted to make it fun and cute and just a really inviting space. So we wanted to start with a blank canvas. So the first thing we did was remove all of the baseboards and door casings. We also took out the existing carpet. This luckily was fairly easy to do, so we removed all the carpet from the room. Next, I wanted to start with a base color, and because I'm going to be painting all the rooms with this home, I decided to purchase a paint sprayer because honestly, it just makes the job so much easier. So I taped off anything I didn't want to get painted. Luckily for me, that really wasn't that much. Like I needed to tape the window and then some areas around the door. Next, I'm going to spray the entire walls. The color I'm using is the color Swiss Coffee at 70%. It took me a while to figure out what kind of floors I wanted to use in this home, but it came down to using luxury vinyl plank. Now, if you don't have any experience with it, we've actually put it in our RV. It's very durable. I thought it would be great for this house to kind of hold up. This was the first room we did in the home, so we were kind of learning as we went how to put these floors in. They're click in place, they're from Home Depot, they're wide plank, so I really like those. I'll put a link to them down in the description box if you're interested in checking them out. So we installed the floors, and I have to say I'm really happy with them and glad we went with this style of luxury vinyl plank. Next, I'm gonna install the baseboards, but I wanted this room to have a lot of color, so I'm gonna be painting these a pink color. Now, I installed a wall cabinet in this room, and I have an entire video of how I put together this wall cabinet. That will be linked for you as well. But I wanted to paint the baseboards in that same pink color. So the baseboards I grabbed are from Home Depot. I grabbed the same baseboards and then a smaller version for our door casing. And I'm gonna paint those pink. I find it easier to paint before I install them. I'm gonna be installing the baseboards with my Roby nail gun. I love this nail gun. I'll link it for you as well. It really does a great job. It doesn't require an air compress. You can use it with a battery and you can get different sizes of nails. I'll touch up paint as well as add caulking around the edges of the baseboards. I also added door casing around the back of the door. Now, you guys probably were wondering what we were going to do with just that random 2x4 and the ceiling fan that was hanging down from there. Not very cute. We decided to take advantage of this and create our own wood beam. We got 2x6 boards and Chris cut them so that they were at an angle. Once he cut the boards, then I went in and stained them. I started with a lighter color stain, kind of the stain that I use for all of my projects, but I decided no, these need to be a bit darker. Then I went in with a darker stain as well. Then he installed these wood beams, and I have to tell you guys, I was not down there when he installed these. I walked into the room and I was like, oh my goodness, these look so good, like way better than I thought they were gonna look. So I absolutely love how they turned out. It was just 3 boards nailed together. We also purchased a new black ceiling fan off of Amazon. It just totally redid this space and I think makes such a statement. We also added a bamboo shade. Now we only have 1 window in this room and we want to get as much light as possible. One of the challenges I faced in this room is the walls are very textured. And so I knew if I was going to be doing any sort of designs, it may be a little tricky, but I decided, you know what, I'm gonna go for it anyways. I can always paint back over it white if I'm not able to make it look good. But I decided I wanted to create a series of arches. So the pink paint that I used for the rest of the room, I actually got sample paints of that in that same color palette. So I went a shade darker, and then I also went 2 shades lighter on the color palette. So I had several colors that I knew were gonna coordinate really well together. So that's a tip that you can do. If you have a color you like and you wanna get other colors that are gonna work well, just go a shade darker and a shade lighter on the color palette to add to your room. To make my arches, I knew I was gonna have to draw a half circle. So I attached a string to a stationary object, and then I used my pencil to create the top portion of the archway. With the straight lines of the arch, I just used a level that I had to draw down. Then I went in with a brush and cut in the paint. And then for the center portion, I just rolled that on. From there, I created another archway and painted that the same way. And then I finished it off with a third archway. Now, after I painted the third one, I realized that the paint was a little too light. So I actually changed up the color so it worked well with the other colors I had put on the arches. Now, not only did I want this to be decorative, I also wanted it to be functional because in this space, there was no closet. So I wanted to create some hangers. So I found some scrap pieces of door casing and cut those down so that they would fit on my 2 outside archways. I painted those to match the color of the arches. Then I drilled some holes to put in some handles that I had bought off of Amazon. I nailed the boards in place and then screwed in the handles. All right, so I'm really interested in this new line that they have. They're little canvas bags. This one's pretty structured. And then they also have the smaller ones that I just think are adorable. I have an idea for these little guys. I'm gonna get 3 of them. I wanted to make these containers really decorative, and I remembered that I bought this throw blanket that had this really cool trim on it. So this blanket is actually from Five Below. It was only $5. So I'm cutting off the trim, and then I'm going to actually cut the trim in half, and then I'm gonna cut tiny little pieces from the trim. I'm actually using these little pieces kind of to look like pom-poms on my container. Next, I'm just going to place the little pieces onto the container, and they matched so perfectly. And I'm gonna hot glue each of the little pieces to my containers. Then I'm gonna turn it on the side and do the exact same thing. And I'll repeat this same step on the third side. I'm not gonna put any on the back just because it's going to be up against the wall. And I'm gonna repeat this with all 3 containers. You can add in succulents or anything you like. If you love seeing DIY and home decorating videos, make sure you're subscribed to my channel. I post new videos on Mondays and Thursdays. Next up was adding in my beds. So my vision was to put 2 full-size beds on either side of the window. So I found these adorable pink upholster beds on Amazon, and I have to tell you, the price was so good on these. So I assembled both of the beds. Next, I put in the mattresses and let those rise completely. Now, when I was looking for a nightstand to put in between the beds, like underneath the window, I knew I wanted something that, again, had additional storage, as much storage as we could get in here. So I was shopping around at the Restore, one of my favorite places to look for furniture. I came across this dresser that was $45. I snagged it right away. The first thing I wanted to do was strip off all of the stain on the wood to give it a natural finish. Now, when I was doing this, it was really cold outside and it was not easy to do. So the stripper gel wasn't working great. It got some of the stain off, but in the end, I had to get some really tough 80 grit sandpaper and use my orbital sander and my strength to sand off the entire piece. Now, I will even tell you, on that front edge, I had to go in with a hand sander to do the rest of it. So this piece took me a while to sand, but it was worth it because I love the way it turned out. With the drawers, I wanted to do something a little bit different. So I removed the hardware from the drawers. Before I painted them, I went in and sanded them lightly. Again, I went back to that same color palette that I had used earlier on the arches, and I'm gonna create an ombre effect. So on each of the drawers, I painted them a different color. Once they had a chance to dry, I added back in the handles. I love these handles. I didn't want to do anything to them because they looked amazing. And to add a little bit something extra, I found this Pioneer Woman shelf paper to put at the bottom, and I added that into each drawer. Then I just placed the dresser in between the two beds. Above the beds, I wanted to find some fun prints, and I think one of the best places now to do that is to look on Etsy. I found these like really kind of fun 70s style prints in the pink and yellows that I was going for in this room. I bought both of the prints and I picked up some frames to put the prints in. We hung them in the middle of each of the beds. I had an old family mirror that I also wanted to add into the space as well. It was already spray painted a gold, but I wanted to give it more dimension. So I came in with my rub and buff to just kind of add different colors in there. It really didn't change the piece that much, but it added just a little bit more dimension to the mirror. And I hung this mirror by the door. Let's talk bedding. I wanted to bring in some other colors to my beddings, like some blues and golds, but I didn't want very heavy bedding. So I started with blue sheets. Now again, all of this will be linked down below. Then I went in with this quilt. It had roses on it. It was really pretty, but it was lightweight, so I thought it was perfect in the space. I opted to go with 2 throws just to kind of give it a little bit something extra. And it really added in some additional color. I'm gonna add a pink pillow to the middle as well. Now the bedding I think is pretty minimal, but I think it'll work well in a kid's space. For my nightstand, I wanted to have a nice reading light, so I added in this gold light that I picked up at TJ Maxx and some other accessories that I already had on hand. Now my favorite part of this entire project was styling the rest of the room. I added accessories to my nightstands, to the bookshelves, and here is how the entire space turned out. This was such a fun space to put together. My girls absolutely loved it, and I had so much fun designing it.
Here we go.
And today we're gonna be doing the 3rd bedroom, which is the smallest bedroom, still another awkward bedroom that we're gonna have to make over. So we cleared out this entire room, and I'm gonna start by removing all of the door casings and baseboards. Then we're going to rip out the carpet, take off the outlet covers, and prep for painting. Now I'm painting this entire house with the color Swiss Coffee at 70%. And since a lot of my ceiling walls are angled, I'm painting them the same color as my walls. Then we added in the same luxury vinyl plank floors that we're putting in the rest of the house. One of the things about this room is it has a closet and it also has this little alcove area. My idea was to tape off this wall and paint the entire wall to just add a little bit of visual interest in the room and make it all look cohesive. So I started by taping off the wall with a really good painter's tape, and then to create a straight line on the edge of the wall, I used a piece of trim just to kind of guide my tape down. I used a deep blue paint and I painted the wall, the door, and the alcove. One of the things that has frustrated me with renovating all of these rooms in this house is that our walls have knockdown on them. So sometimes it's hard to get a crisp line. So once I removed the painter's tape, I had to go back in and add in some of that additional white paint. And I used like a 2-inch angle brush. That's just gonna help me get a nice straight line. And I just kind of eyeballed it and did the best I could. The closet door that was in this room was just a plain door, so I thought it would be nice to add a little bit of decorative trim to it. So I bought some trim at Lowe's. I measured the door to figure out where I wanted those trim pieces to sit. And then another thing I decided to pick up was a miter box. I've never used this before. I thought it'd be fun to try it out and see how well it cut 45-degree angles. I bought a miter box with a hand saw to cut the 45-degree angles. Now the miter box worked okay once I kind of figured out where to put the pegs in order to make the cuts. I was able to cut 4 pieces. I mapped them out on the floor to see how well they would fit together. I also had to sand down the edges to make sure there wasn't any rough edges. I re-measured the door, marked exactly where I was gonna put the pieces, and then to adhere them to my door, since it was a hollow door, I just put some wood glue on the back and then put painter's tape on the top to hold them in place until they had a chance to dry. The next day, I came back, removed the painter's tape, and I painted the trim the same blue color as the wall. I lucked out because the previous owners actually left a bench at the house, and I thought, let's use it. I was so lucky that it fit perfectly in the alcove area. I wasn't a fan of the wood color, so I decided to paint it. So I started by priming the top of the bench. After the primer dried on the top, I went in and rolled on the color Accessible Beige. Accessible Beige is the color that I've been using on the doors and baseboards throughout the house. I painted the base of the bench with the wall color. To give it a wood appearance, I used a glaze called Glaze Effects in the color brown. I mixed the glaze with water, I just brushed it on and removed the excess with a paper towel. I added in baseboards around the entire room. I decided to paint the baseboards in the dark blue color that I used on the walls. I also added in door casing around the closet and the door to the room. Next, I filled all of the holes that I used with my nailer to add in the baseboards and caulking to the edges. That's an important detail. That way you just don't have any seams on your walls. And then once all that dried, I came back in and touched up the paint. Now I will say of all these remodels that I'm doing, I would say the baseboards, the door casings, the painting, that takes the most time, but it's not hard to do, and I know you could do it as well in your room. Just like the other two rooms we have up here, we installed a beam across the ceiling and added in a black ceiling fan. Now, one of my hardest tasks for this room was figuring out a bed that was going to fit in this room. The walls are super angled in this room. So where I wanted to put the bed, the tallest point before the room started to angle was only 37 inches. And I scoured the internet looking for a bed that was only 37 inches tall. I found one. I feel like it's the only one that exists, but I ordered it off of Amazon and it was really affordable. I ordered it in the queen size. Before they had a king bed in here and it just took up, you know, basically the whole room. So I went down to a queen so I could put end tables on either side of the bed. So I assembled the bed together in the room. Next, I wanted to address the window. So the window in here was a black window, but it was really dirty, really messy, so I cleaned it up really well. Once I cleaned it up, there was a lot of like white paint that had gotten on the window over the years with people painting it. So I found this specialty paint at Sherwin-Williams that you can actually use to paint metal windows. This is all the information about the paint in case you want to screenshot it and take it in to purchase some. So to apply this paint, I used a foam brush and then just lightly dabbed it around the window. Now I have to say I've never painted a window like this, but it turned out so great. I also had to come back in with some white paint and touch up around the edges, but this window looks completely brand new. I also replaced the door hardware to be a black door hardware and the door hinges. It's a little step that you can do, but it makes a big difference. And then in all the rooms in this house, we've been replacing the outlets, so they all have brand new outlets. The room is finally at the point where I just kind of start putting things in here, kind of laying out some of my decorations, and I'm gonna go through everything and start installing. I was really hoping to get the bed set up in here today, but the mattress I want to order is out of stock. So I'm hoping that it will come back in stock this week. Otherwise, I may have to find something else, but I think I'm gonna concentrate on just hanging up the wall art. I added in these two small nightstands on either side of my queen bed. Now I only had 12 inches on either side and I think they work well. I think in a guest room, it's nice to have some kind of hanger where people can, you know, just hang up anything, coats, swimsuits, anything they need to hang up. So I found this really cool piece of wood at an antique store. I kind of hammered it back together because it was falling apart. I also sanded it down a bit and kind of cleaned it off. I wanted to keep the natural look of it, so I added in a natural stain that I had, and I just put that on with a brush and wiped off any excess. Now for the hooks here, I'm actually gonna be using these hooks that I use really throughout my house all the time. I've used them in my RV. I'll link them for you down below because they're super affordable, but I'm just going to measure out where I want the hooks to be and space them out. and then I'll add the hooks to my coat hanger. And then I'll just hang it up in the room. If you enjoy room makeovers and DIYing on a budget, make sure you're subscribed to my channel. I post new videos on Mondays and Thursdays. Hanging on the walls, I really want to add some macrame planters. These are the Five Below ones. This one is $5, and then they also have this style that's $3, so I picked up 4. I think that I'm going to put 3 on one side and maybe 1 over here with a mirror. I'm not really sure. I grabbed a bunch of different plants. Some I had at home, like these are from Five Below. This is the IKEA one that I've had. These are just some stems that I had in my collection, so I grabbed these. I'm trying to think where I got this. I remember I grabbed this at Dollar General. So I'm just gonna kind of try some different combinations and see what works. This one is my favorite, this little hang down plant. I assume I'll probably use this one, but maybe not. Really with these macrame planters, until they're hanging up, you kind of don't know how they're gonna look. So when I was in the store this is so cute for $3 by the way, but when I was in the store, I put these pots in here, these little $3 succulents, and I felt like they just looked really cute and simple, and I felt like they would look good in a grouping. This is a pot that I got from Five Below, and I thought, let's just put a couple little stems. These are from this little one that I got at Walmart. This will give us a little bit of variation. And I think, I don't know, I feel like these pots they may be 1, but they could be $3 at Five Below. Gonna test them out and try different things. I may end up not liking it. I think I'll probably have to hang them up first. That's the hard part whenever you're doing these hangers where you want to do like 3 together, is like once you put the screw in the wall, you don't really want to move it. So sometimes I'll have Chris come up and like hold it and see what it looks like. I love this, so maybe I'll put this kind of on its own in this little container. On the walls, I also added up this really fun print that I bought at a local antique store here in Kansas City called Good Juju. On the other side, I'm adding in a thrifted mirror that I picked up. So in this room, I really wanted to hang some wall sconces above the nightstand, but I couldn't figure out how to do it without wiring in outlets until I found this product on Amazon. I can't wait to show you. Okay, so these are wall sconces. They have little, I guess these would be like lampshades with them, but they are lights that you don't have to hardwire in. They each come with a remote. So that way I can just hang them on the wall and then turn them on and off with the remote. I think this is genius. I'll link them down below. I measured where I wanted the sconces on the wall. All I had to do was attach the metal piece to the wall and put the sconces in place. I'll be able to control the sconces with the remote that comes with it, and I'm just going to Velcro that to my nightstands. Now the mattress for this room finally came back in stock, so I ordered it and put it into the room. The sheets that I picked up are from Target. And you guys don't worry, everything I'm talking about that we have a link for will be down in the description box. To get to the description box, there's an arrow over on this side of the screen. Just pull that arrow down and you'll see all the links. You can click on them and go find these items. I'm adding in a white comforter. My pillows are Beckham pillows. I use these all throughout my house. I'm gonna add those as well. I added in my throw pillows. As I was looking at it, I decided to kind of change up the throw pillows. I liked kind of more of the blue and neutral look better. I added in my gray throw blanket that I picked up at HomeGoods. On the nightstands, I'm gonna style that with thrifted books that I painted. And then I just added some accessories that I already had on hand. And then I'm gonna Velcro the remotes that go to the sconces onto the table. That way little hands can't come by and, just take them so easily. Everyone needs a place to charge their cell phone. So there was 2 outlets on the side of the bed. So I put in these outlet adapters that are awesome because they have a night light. They also have a bunch of like USB ports. And then I bought just a short 12-inch USB cord for people to charge their phones. That way there's not a big cord that you're tripping over to get into the bed. I will link to all these products down in the description box because I just found them as well. I was so lucky at how well this bench actually fit into the alcove. So we placed it into the alcove, and then to decorate it, I added in a throw blanket from HomeGoods. I really like their throw blankets. They're usually really well priced and there's a good selection. And then I added in 2 Target pillows as well. I love how this little section just looks so adorable. And here's how the entire room turned out. So I have to show you the before of what this bathroom looked like at the lake before we touched it. Now this is the main bathroom and it really just hasn't been updated for years. I really wanted to update this bathroom, but I didn't want to spend a lot of money. So I'm going to show you how you can do things like paint and DIY yourself to get it done really affordably. I started by removing items on the wall that I no longer needed, things like the old towel racks, the outlet covers, anything that wasn't supposed to be there.
So yesterday we took out the carpeting in here. We also removed the toilet, and then we found something back here. There's a huge hole in the floor. You can see down into our laundry room. Crazy, I know. So we are going to have to repair that.
So we did fix the hole in the floor before adding any flooring. The cabinetry that was in this room was really in good shape. I just wanted to update that honey oak color. So I started by removing all of the doors and hinges. Now you can save a lot of money if you just save your hinges and reuse them from project to project. Now one tip whenever you're painting cabinets and removing cabinet doors is you want to get plastic bags out and label where that door is in your bathroom, and then put the hinges into that plastic bag. That way, when you go to hang everything back up on the wall, you're gonna know exactly what hinges go on what cabinets. Next, I filled all of the holes on the wall. Now you may be noticing this texture on the walls. All of our walls at the lake have this texture, and we've kind of just made the decision to go with it and keep it because it would just be so much work to remove all of that texture. So at one point, somebody moved the door on one of the cabinets, but they never filled in those holes. So I went in with a little bit of wood filler and filled in those holes on the cabinets. The first thing I want to do in this room is paint the walls. So I need to protect all of the fixtures. I love this painter's tape that you can pick up at any big box store, and anything I'm showing you in this video that I have a link for, I will link for you down in the description box, or I will also put it in the comments if you're looking for anything. But this painter's tape is great because you can put it along your vanity. It's also great for your shower, and then it has a drop cloth attached that you can pull down. It saves you so much time in covering up items you don't want to get paint on. Now it's time to start painting. I know it is no fun to paint ceilings, but it makes such a big difference, especially when you're renovating a room that has not been painted in several years. Having a fresh ceiling paint is going to make a world of difference. So I'm going to be using Swiss Coffee, which is the color that I use on the walls as well. So I'm going to do one coat on my ceiling with a roller, and then I'll go around the edges with a brush. After painting the ceiling, I also painted the walls with the color Swiss Coffee. You've probably heard me use this color before because it's my favorite white color. It's the color that I have in my house here at home, and it's just such a great white color. Now I wanted to give this room a little bit of pop of color, so I thought when you walk in, I would paint that back wall of color and take it around to where the toilet area was. So I tested out 2 different gray paint samples. You'll have to let me know down in the comments which of these colors is your favorite, and I'll let you know here in a little bit which one I went with, either A or B. After I got the base color on the walls, I wanted to turn my attention to painting the cabinets. Now with the cabinet doors, you're gonna need a wide area where you can lay out all of your cabinet doors. Since we were renovating this house, the living room was pretty much ready. I just made sure that I had a nice drop cloth down. My cabinets had a lacquer finish to them, so I needed to sand these first. I'm gonna be using a product called liquid sand, and this basically what you're going to do is wipe it onto your cabinets. Make sure that you're wearing gloves whenever you're putting this on. I applied this to all of the doors and drawers by just wiping it on with a rag. Now follow the directions with the liquid sand, give it the appropriate amount of time to dry. Then I came back in with 120 grit sandpaper and just sanded down all of my drawers, all of my doors, as well as the cabinet bases. After sanding, you want to wipe everything down with warm soapy water. I know sometimes people can be intimidated by painting cabinets, but if you follow these simple steps, it's not as intimidating. And I think the biggest key is with making sure you wait long enough between each of your paint coats to give the appropriate amount of dry time. Now I did pick up these fancy little risers to put my doors on. These were really cool. I'll link them for you down below, but they're essentially these risers that will pick your doors up probably about 2 inches off the ground. So they're great for painting and making sure you can get around the edges. Now, what products are you going to need to paint your cabinets? First, you're going to need a great primer. I'm going to be using the Bullseye Primer. I'm also going to need an angled brush and a high quality roller. I think the high quality roller is really key. I like to spend a little bit more to have a nice roller just to make the finish as smooth as possible. And it's also great to have a paint tray for your paint. So I'm going to start by rolling as much as possible with my primer coat on my doors, and then anywhere where I can't get to it with that roller, I'm going to use my angled brush. I'm gonna let 24 hours dry between each of my priming coats. So that means I'm gonna do the whole back side of my doors, I'll do the drawers, and I'll do the cabinet bases. And then I'll come in the next day, flip them over, and do another coat of that primer. I do 1 coat total in primer on all the surfaces. Now for the paint color, I'm gonna be going with the color Creamy White. This is by Benjamin Moore, and it's just a great ivory color. Now, whenever you're painting cabinets, I do recommend going with the highest quality paint that fits within your budget, even more than the walls, because I feel like with cabinets, they get so much wear and tear. So you want a really great paint that's going to stand the test of time. And several brands now make paint designed specifically for cabinets, so it's really easy to find a great paint. Now, I'm gonna be doing 2 coats of the Creamy White paint on all of the cabinets. These are gonna go on the doors. It's also going to go on my my drawers and then the cabinet bases as well. Between each coat, you want to follow what's recommended on the outside of your paint can. I'm going to be allowing 16 hours dry time between each coat. I think in the end, it's so worth it to paint your cabinetry. Now, while that's all drying, I'm gonna move my attention to that accent wall. I wanted to give that interest when you walk in. Now, I decided to go with the color Booth Bay Gray. So I rolled on the color Booth Bay Gray with a large roller, and then I finished it up around the edges with an angled brush. Now, if you have the same issue that I have, that you have very textured walls, you don't want to go with those smooth rollers when you're putting paint on. You actually want to go with a fluffier roller. It's going to make adding paint to your walls so much easier. We added 2 affordable light fixtures that we found off of Amazon. We put one as the overhead light and then one where the mirror is. Now let's talk about mirrors. I found a really affordable one at Home Goods that I'm gonna be using in this room. If you wanted to go even less expensive, the thrift store has so many great options for mirrors. I don't know about you, but my favorite thing to do after painting is to remove the painter's tape. It's so fun and I just feel so accomplished that I finished painting. Next, I had to reinstall the door hinges and put back on the drawers, and I was so thankful that I organized them ahead of time so I knew exactly what hinge went with what door, and it saved me a ton of money by reusing the old hinges. Next up was our flooring. Now you can spend a lot of money on flooring, so we went with a really affordable option. We found these marble laminate tiles when we were shopping at Lowe's, and I have to tell you, we used these in several of the bathrooms and I absolutely love the way they look. I would love to know your opinion down in the comments, but they're very durable and they've held up really well. We added in baseboards and trim that we had used in the rest of the house, and we just painted those with our house accent color, which is accessible beige. After everything was installed, I went back in and did touch-up paint just to make sure that everything looked nice and finished, and I made sure I didn't miss any spots on the wall. For privacy, I needed to add some vinyl to the window in this room. There's only one window here, but essentially it looks out onto our front entrance. So I wanted to make sure there was plenty of privacy in this bathroom. So I found some vinyl off of Amazon. I cut it down to size and then I adhered it to the window. To save even more money, I DIY'd my own towel rack with a scrap board that we had just laying around from all these projects that we were doing. I sanded the board down and I stained it with special walnut. Now I did order some hooks off of Amazon. I spaced the hooks out and I added them to the board. And I put this hook behind the door, kind of close over to our vanity. I did have a few extra hooks from the pack that I bought, so I put those over by the shower so that you had a towel rack as soon as you got out of the shower. I reinstalled the old shower curtain rod and just updated with some new shower curtains that I bought really inexpensively. I went with a plain white one. There was this interesting shelf that they had on the side of the cabinet, and I thought to save money, I'll just reinstall that same shelf and keep it. But I wanted to add in some guest bathroom essentials, and to make it look high-end, I found these glass containers off of Amazon that I just filled with some bathroom essentials that my guests might need, like toothbrushes, toothpaste. I got some floss picks and Q-tips. Now, if you really want to dress up a room, go in with some great hardware, especially if you don't have a lot of drawers or handles. It's not gonna cost you that much to buy maybe 4 handles like I did, and I found a few cute drawer pulls. So I will link to the ones that I got down below, but I went with a very bold handle for these drawers. I also added some essentials that my guests might need to the drawers. I placed a hanger that I already had from another project on the wall underneath that shelf so I could put a towel on there for the guests. So I wanted to share with you my organization of how I do towels in the bathrooms here. So I pick one color for the towels for each bathroom. So this bathroom, I have beige towels. In another bathroom, I have white towels. This is just a way for me to make sure that I have enough towels in a bathroom at a time if I have people coming over and using those bathrooms. So in this bathroom, I have all beige towels and they're from Target. Now on the walls, I found these cute lake prints at a local antique store, and they came with these older frames. I just wanted to update the frames a little bit, so I took the prints out of the frame and I'm going to spray paint the frames white. I'll put the pictures back in, and here's how they look hanging on the wall. Now I finished off the bathroom with some additional accessories, and here's how it turned out for under $300. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll talk to you in our next one. Bye.